Sri Ramakrishna said that there were these two attitudes in spiritual life. Either you want to taste sugar or you want to become sugar. Sometimes he would ask, do you want to become sugar? Do you want to taste sugar? The devotee says, I want to taste sugar. I want to enjoy the bliss of God, of establishing a loving relationship with God. The jnani, the one on the path of knowledge, says that I want to be one with God. I want to realize my oneness with the divine. I want to realize I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. These seem to be two different attitudes, and they don't seem to be, how can you reconcile being sugar and tasting sugar at the same time? So yes, this is, first of all, devotion is possible. There must be some kind of duality, that one loves another. One loves one's own nature. One can put it that way, but that seems to be stretching the meaning of love too much. Adi Shankaracharya says the real meaning of bhakti is the intense desire to find out who am I. Swaswarup Anusandhanam, that's the real bhakti. That might be, but that's not what we normally understand as bhakti. We understand bhakti as our devotion to God in some form. In the theistic religions, God is to be worshipped, adored, believed in. And there is some element of distinction at least. Either a clear distinction between God and devotee, or at least some element, part and whole distinction between God and devotee. So that's it's understood what Atreyu says, and the other question also from Renato. Yes. So I'm saying first, yes. And next, you can hear a but there. But no, it's possible. Both are possible. You can be a jnani and a bhakta at the same time. First of all, look at the evidence. Look at Sri Ramakrishna. He was a jnani and a bhakta. Look at Vivekananda, Ma Sharada. They were jnanis and bhaktas. Look at Ramana Maharshi, who was regarded as just embodying non-dual knowledge. But he was full of devotion for Arunachala Shiva. Very deep devotion. Look at Adi Shankaracharya. I was just looking up our book of hymns and prayers in Sanskrit, Stavananjali, and that's a collection of the choicest hymns in Sanskrit from a religion that's at least 5,000 years old, starting from the Vedas down to our time. A collection, an eclectic collection. And how many of those hymns, which are almost all of them are devotional, almost all, how many of them are attributed to one person, Adi Shankaracharya? I was counting, nearly 1/4 were from one source in 5,000-year-old collection. So here is this person who embodies Advaita Vedanta better than Adi Shankaracharya himself. And yet he is a great bhakta. So first of all, it's possible. It's possible. But then the question remains, how? How can we reconcile it? I'll give you a few approaches to this. One is, one might have one approach in spiritual life, the path of knowledge, for example, as predominant, and the devotion aspect as secondary, not so expressed. I have seen very senior monks in our order who are like that either devotion predominated or knowledge predominated. Swami Vivekananda recommends the harmony of the 4 yogas, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga and Raja Yoga, for a well-developed, harmonious spiritual life. Now, in each of our cases, the 4 yogas can be present, but the mix need not be the same in each person's case, depending on our predispositions, on our philosophical approach. See, the mix may be different. For example, traditional philosophies of Vedanta, Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, Dvaita, and so on, in most cases they have a combination of these yogas, but they're different according to the philosophical paradigm of each school. So in Advaita Vedanta, enlightenment is realization that I am Brahman. What is enlightenment? You realize I am Brahman. And that realization alone leads to moksha, liberation. That alone leads to Jivan Mukti, freedom while living. So that is the realization that Advaita Vedanta talks about. And that is attainable, how? Only through Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge, through Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, systematically listening to, studying the Vedantic texts, reasoning about it and meditating upon one's understanding and conclusions. But at the same time, traditional Advaita Vedanta gives a lot of emphasis on Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and meditation, Upasana. So devotion, meditation and selfless work. They are all at a secondary level, at a preparatory level, at a purifying level. By Karma Yoga, one is supposed to purify one's mind, and by meditation, one is supposed to focus the purified mind. And this purified and focused mind is very useful for attaining jnana, knowledge that I am Brahman. So all yogas are there, even in a jnana yogi's life. Now, someone like Ramanuja comes and he flips it around. And he says, Bhakti is the highest. By jnana, we realize that we are part of the divine. We are not just flesh and blood, but we are pure consciousness. We are part of the divine consciousness. Then you establish a relationship of the individual consciousness with the supreme consciousness. And that relationship is one of bliss, of love, of devotion, of bhakti. So bhakti will take you to the highest, according to Ramanuja. But again, my point here is, notice the elements of jnana and bhakti are both present in Vishishtadvaita Vedanta. Karma also. All of these schools, they have a role for Karma Yoga. They all admit the purifying power of Karma Yoga. So the mix of all four yogas, the harmony of four yogas, is there in each of the paths, most of these schools. Some schools will exclusively favor one. So for example, the Achintya Bheda Bheda school, the school of Bengal Vaishnavism, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, that says exclusively devotion. Bhakti alone will take you to the highest. So this is one way that the harmony of the yogas is there in our spiritual life from the very beginning. In one sense you are a jnani, in another sense you are a bhakta. All are possible at the same time. Not only possible, Vivekananda strongly recommends all should be there in our spiritual practice. The traditional schools of Vedanta also recommend that, except that there is a hierarchy of the yogas. Another way in which the two can be reconciled is when when Swami Vivekananda says about Sri Ramakrishna and himself, he says, I am jnana only on the outside. On the inside, my heart is very soft, he says. I am all devotion inside, bhakti, love inside. But he, the old man, he meant Sri Ramakrishna, old man. By the way, Sri Ramakrishna was barely 50 when he passed away. And the old man. So the old man is bhakti on the outside, but inside, he was all jnana. Jnana means the realization of non-dual Brahman. That means one can be apparently one type of spiritual seeker. Maybe one seems to be very devotional in one's approach. Internally, one may be entirely different. That's also possible. One may be a bhakta outside and a jnani inside. A jnani outside and a bhakta inside. That's possible. So that's another way in which you can reconcile both of them. Now the question here still remains unanswered. Atraya might say, yes, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Your limitless consciousness. So suppose that is what jnana says. There's one limitless consciousness appearing as the many. And then who is to be devoted to whom? How would, if you are a thoroughgoing understanding, I'm not even saying realization of that I am Brahman. Just a thoroughgoing understanding. If you at all understand what Advaita Vedanta tells you, then how is bhakti possible, reasonably speaking? That was the question. That's the core of the question, the kernel of the question. And the answer is this. Notice, Advaita Vedanta, and Atra is also written, there is one limitless consciousness in which the world is reflected, or that limitless consciousness appears as this world. The crucial point is appearance. Even after the realization, I am one limitless Brahman, one limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, you will still see that the world is appearing to you, names and forms. You'll still see that you have a body. You still see that you have this life which you were leading till now. That life will continue. In fact, that is what a Jivan Mukta is, who continues living in this body and mind even after the full realization that I am Brahman. After all, if you realize all the ornaments in a jewelry shop, they're all gold. Do the necklaces and the bracelets and the rings, they all disappear now that you have realized it's all gold, so I can't be a necklace or a bracelet or a ring anymore? No, of course not. Once you realize all the waves in the Atlantic Ocean are just water, the same water, do all the waves suddenly subside? Oh, he's realized we are water, we can't be waves anymore. No. It continues exactly. One sadhu said in Hindi, I'll tell you what he said in Hindi and then translate. Gyan koi tod phod nahi karta hai. Jnana, knowledge, does not destroy, damage, change, modify anything in the world. It just shows you what really exists all the time. What was always there, for some reason, for some ignorance, we didn't see what was there earlier. In the ocean with 10,000 waves, there's only just one water that always was there. In fact, it's because of the water that you see these 10,000 waves. It's because of the underlying one that we see these 10,000 things. It's a phrase in Buddhism, 10,000 things, which means the world, samsara. Once you see that one, these 10,000 things will keep on appearing. But I'm using the word appearance. They are no longer the ultimate reality. What's the difference then between not knowing and then knowing, not realizing and then realizing, not being enlightened and enlightenment? If you see the same thing, then what's the difference? The difference is we saw the 10,000 things earlier, this world earlier, and we thought this is the reality. There's nothing more to it. It's a material reality. That's it. But the enlightened person sees, no. That's not the last word about it. There is a deeper reality, a spiritual reality. And you are the spiritual reality of this entire display. The display will continue, but then you can call it a display. Then you can call it an appearance. Before that, doesn't make sense to call it an appearance because it's just real. This is what it is. Now, the world will continue. And you also will continue not only as Brahman, of course you are Brahman, but you will also continue as that person Atre. And nothing that the person does will stop. You will still walk and talk and have friends and eat and go to school, get an education, live the life of Atre also. That will continue. If that continues, if my individual life continues, then the cosmos also continues, the world also continues. Yes, you can call it an appearance, but the appearance continues. And if I continue as an individual, that one consciousness in and through this one being, that same one consciousness, Advaita makes it even more clear now, that same one consciousness is behind this display of 10,000 things also. Then that one consciousness is God for you. Let me repeat. Yes, it's one non-dual Brahman. But as long as the one non-dual Brahman appears as the person Atre, it also appears to Atre as the God of Atre's universe. And it's more real then. Earlier, the God you worship before the understanding of Advaita Vedanta was a matter of faith, belief, emotion. But now, you know for a fact that behind all of this display there is one reality which you know because it's your own reality. It's more real than anything else. And then you also notice that reality is associated, continues to be associated with one body mind, yourself. In that case, that reality also is associated with millions and millions of bodies, minds, and this entire universe. Then you, that reality as an individual, and you, that reality as God, you can have a relationship of devotion. The individual and the cosmic cannot be one. As individual and as cosmic, there can be a relation between the two. The relation is always devotion. The part is always devoted to the whole. Shankaracharya himself sings that though you and I are one, the wave always belongs to the ocean. The ocean does not belong to the wave. As water, both are one. As Nirguna Brahman, you and God are one. Tattvamasi, aham brahmasmi, I am that. But as the person, I am the devotee of God. Why this does not seem appealing or real? I'll tell you why. Because I listened very carefully to what you wrote, Atreya. You said, nothing is real. That phrase was used? No. It's not nothing is real. Did you see? Does she write towards the end of her question?
Oh, yes, she does, yes. Whenever I hear God, I think of the pure consciousness on which the world is being reflected and how nothing is real, and then loving consciousness seems absurd to me.
That is crucial. If you think nothing is real, then what is there to love? But that's not what Advaita Vedanta says. Advaita Vedanta says Brahman is real. What you know as Brahman, as I am that, again, that one as Atreya can love that one as God. The reality of this universe is Brahman. When you say nothing is real, what is that nothing you're dismissing? What we are doing is, we are throwing away the baby with the bathwater. When you experience the universe, you are not experiencing just names and forms. You are experiencing Brahman with the names and forms. When we experience the waves in the ocean, it's not that we are experiencing just ghostly forms of the waves. No, we are experiencing the water which is appearing as the waves. When we are experiencing this universe right now, we are experiencing Brahman. We are experiencing Brahman with a coating of names and forms. The names and forms in themselves, by themselves, and of themselves are not real. But that which manifests them, that which is always there underneath them, as their base, as their ground, is real. It is the reality. It is Brahman. God is as real as Atreya is. To the extent that we consider ourselves real, and we do a very good job of considering ourselves to be real. One of our teachers, as in our monastery, used to say, Advaita, non-duality, is meant to be applied to yourself. Jnana to yourself, knowledge to yourself, Bhakti to God. But you fools, meaning the trainee monks, you are very good at applying Jnana to God. Oh, the temple worship and all of that is nothing. Now, Advaita has shown me. But very good at applying Bhakti to yourself. When the bell rings, time for food, happily go and put food in your mouth. You consider yourselves to be very real. And you're experts at denying the reality of everything else. No, that will not work. That will not work. So the crucial